Yeah, there's a big old snapdragon living in this thing. Especially when you're looking at this bad thing right here. This is a little different about the distance you've traveled for how long when you figure out your baseline. Here's your first two problems in the grow box about figuring out lux, lumen, Kelvin, ultraviolet, the whole spectrum. You got to be able to drop it back from either this version of it, grow box, before we get outside with, and I'll do a shade index 123 because Kelvin 1000 to 10,000, red to blue. You want to make sure you do that in terms of the bandwidth of visible light. Right, this is not visible light, they are very different. But with that said, the same shade index works to the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth week, or 12th week, excuse me, about how that thermodynamics works in terms of your books, about what you would need to do to your seed start inside of there. Here I'm kind of starting you in the middle of the operation. Well, what is a 3x3 or 3x3 a little extra, 3x4 grid inside of here, and laying out all the parts from the prior system. There, I'm still keeping it in the space of exact energy design sequence of the grow box, which is continued, of a blueprint that will begin to pick up some of these systems for you. So a 100 watt light bulbs, you can even kick 4 of them in here, have it going on, but it's a heat problem and other things. We're just trying to get one seed off of a 4-pack, or a 9-pack here, to be able to sex them off of that first week, seed the first week, replace this, get it into a cup, right? And then on the second week, we're going to sex them. Once they come up, we're going to expose them to those types of light conditions, make them want to decide early so that the males present themselves, not that necessarily the females will. And that's actually like the 4th week or 5th week, something inside here, depending on what this is. And this is a very small plant. We're trying to get that just to the harvest and then stretch it before we do anything. No bonsai, no scrog, no any of that just yet, until we find some base control systems. One, instead of a whole bunch of them, it's just a slower mechanism for it that deals with how to deal with the stock in that manner. So when you're reading the pressure gauges, just real quick on the other side of things, let me get this out of here. No, yeah, there we go. So you get your pressure gauges going. This is the rate of your speed. That's me running no time sequences. No, you're not allowed to have a timer just yet. I'm specifying timer, but you're not allowed to have one for this. This needs to be a holy system like that. It's more about find your failure, and then I could allow you to have a timer, and I'd probably tell you to only use it if you're going out with the old lady or your kids need to go to the soccer game where, yeah, use your brain, do that stuff. Otherwise, that's the kind of incidents, because you will turn them on and check them. You will turn them off and check them. You will check the water inside of there. You're going to check temperature ranges inside of there. You're going to log that stuff. You're going to get in there with a tape measure. You're going to decide how to design this hydroponic or aquifer system, about how to do a watering system, how your plug sets are doing when we're getting into the electric bill. And individually, those light bulbs being, a kilowatt, so we're going to be running, if you're running 1212, it works out real nice, because then you got 2, which it does some fun math at that point in time. When you get it all lined up in the wave functions, it's okay that not all of them line up perfectly. In matter of fact, we don't want them to. Not all the time. We'll get into the staking later about how to get that in there and node position that bonsai out, and how to describe what the north southeast on this is. Light spectrum outside again, is all light spectrums. But we can test this on luxes and lumens, and I'm going to hopefully break that down for you. Because it's seed and quantum mechanics, I'm going to make sure I kick in the light spectrums for you, and visible light, and where the marijuana keys in on that. That's a really important feature, not just necessarily for the grow, but what this line is right here at 420, when I have my 14 hours of light outside on that light cone to all the angles in that spot, and I've tested out all the substrate solutions and all that 10 by 10 inside of here. And I'm definitely going to start have a grid, maybe not the whole thing written out like I did it, but there would be the bones mechanics to load in, at least with the clay technique. Here we're still doing the seed space exact gender design grow box set on the indoor blueprints or the outdoor models. What that is. So yeah, pretty good so far. There was a guy, he was talking about the Bucky Beaver hydroelectric plant, does the shorts. And he's looking in there and he's trying to explain why he doesn't like kilowatt hours. Why he doesn't necessarily... Well, back to the light bulb in itself. Let's break this down and let's do the actual long form math like an ASVAB problem, right? One light bulb, two light bulbs is going to start to get complicated fast. The brain almost starts to kick out a little bit on that, about angles being not necessarily the right type of symmetrical geometry. Because 1 would work, 2 does work, but there's some symmetry problems with it. 3 would work, but again, when this has its own geometry in Fibonacci sequence, that's going to change what that is. 4 generally does pretty good, and it extends out the region, especially when you get these 2 pipes like this, just orientated right on a main line. Bonsai inside of here, and getting the scrog worked out, and what your time sequences are. Because again, out here, comparatively this 2x3, you can take this whole 10x10, and that's what I'm trying to work out here when we get to the bonsai features of what the parts of that map are, and breaking down that node. See, there's the main line. When you top it, then there's a rate of change in that travel. It's a spike or a dip in the wave function, right? Okay, so that's the Enigma machine about my house's kilowatt hours overall, fridge, stove, all those things, and they all kick in on their own time frame, which still gives me an average of what this is, plus or minus what, that's going to calculate how fast that bottom part is spinning. And when that's spinning, because inside of here it'll come up and down, and it's got some fluctuation. It'll force this thing to come in, it'll force it to come down, and then you went on vacation. And between the periods, at least that's going to slow down before you get there. Nice egg guy checks the monitor, which in New York, which I've fun to find out, is 37% higher than any results. So that's pretty important, especially if you're going to run a 24-hour system on that set right there, or even the 1818, and what does 1212 correlate to inside where you might be grid positioned, about knowing that. Doesn't have to start top one, A1 in the corner for what it is, but I'm just saying in this garden it'll probably get you a little farther, Valentine.